Have you ever looked back at your relationship history and felt a quiet, uncomfortable déjà vu? Different faces, different names, different beginnings, but somehow the same ending. It always starts the same way. You meet someone magnetic, charming, almost too good to be true. They see you in a way no one else has. They make you feel chosen. And for a moment, it feels like you've finally gotten it right. But then something shifts. Not all at once. That's what makes it so dangerous. It's subtle. A comment disguised as concern. A joke that doesn't quite feel like a joke. A moment where your feelings are brushed off aside, and suddenly you find yourself explaining why you feel the way you feel. You start walking carefully, choosing your words, replaying conversations in your head like you're studying for a test you never signed up for. And when it finally ends, when you finally break free, you make yourself a promise. Never again. But 6 months later, maybe a year, you meet someone new. And this time you tell yourself this person is different. This time will be better. Until one day you feel that familiar knot in your stomach. That same confusion, that same quiet exhaustion, and it hits you, you're in the same story, just with a different character. And that's when the question starts haunting you. What is wrong with me? Why do I keep choosing the wrong people? Is there something about me that attracts this? Let me tell you something you probably don't want to hear. It's not that you attract toxic people. It's that you are visible to them. And that difference changes everything. Because people with manipulative or narcissistic tendencies don't choose randomly. They have a radar, a very specific one. And if you keep showing up in their orbit, it's not because you're broken. It's because you carry qualities that they can recognize and unfortunately exploit. But here's the twist that no one tells you. Those qualities are not weaknesses. They are the very traits that likely helped you survive your past. The problem is not that you have them. The problem is where you place them. Let's start with the first one. Your empathy, not the casual kind. Not the polite, surface level understanding. I'm talking about the kind of empathy where you don't just hear someone's pain, you feel it. Where someone else's sadness sits in your chest like it belongs there. Where you can understand someone so deeply that you begin to justify things you should never tolerate. To the right people, this is rare and beautiful. To the wrong people, it's fuel. Because someone who avoids responsibility needs someone who will understand them endlessly. Someone who will say, maybe they didn't mean it like that. Maybe they're just hurting. Maybe if I love them better, they'll change. And you, with your open heart and your endless patience, become the perfect place for them to land. Now let's talk about the second trait, your need to fix. When you see someone struggling, your instinct isn't to step back. It's to step in. You see potential where others see red flags. You see wounds where others see warning signs. And it feels noble. It feels like love. But sometimes, if we're being honest, it's not just about helping them. It's about proving something to yourself. Because somewhere along the way, you learn that your value comes from being needed. From being the one who holds everything together, the one who doesn't give up. So when someone gives you endless problems, endless chaos, endless reasons to stay and try again, it feels like purpose. But let's be real for a second. You cannot fix someone who benefits from being broken. And staying in that cycle doesn't make you strong. It just keeps you stuck. The third trait is the one that quietly shapes everything else. Your boundaries. Or more accurately, the lack of clear ones. Maybe you grew up in a space where your needs weren't prioritized. Where keeping the peace mattered more than speaking your truth. Where saying no felt like being selfish. So you adapted. You became flexible, understanding, tolerant, too tolerant. What feels unbearable to others becomes something you negotiate with. You tell yourself it's not that bad. They didn't mean it. I can handle this. And someone who is testing limits will notice that immediately. They'll push a little, then a little more. A comment here, a dismissal there. And each time you stay, each time you explain it away, they learn something very important. Your limits are movable. And once someone knows that, they stop asking where the line is. They start deciding it for you. Now here's where this goes deeper than you expect. You're not just repeating a pattern because of who you meet. You're repeating it because on a subconscious level, it feels familiar. Psychologists call this trauma repetition. Your brain is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to solve something unfinished. If you grew up feeling like love had to be earned, then inconsistency feels like attraction. If you learned that approval was conditional, then uncertainty feels like chemistry. If you were taught that your role was to keep others happy, then emotional responsibility feels normal. So when you meet someone who activates those same feelings, your brain doesn't say, "This is dangerous." It says, "This feels like home." And that's the trap. Because familiar does not mean safe. It just means known. So how do you break this? Not by finding better people first, but by changing your relationship with yourself. The first shift is internal boundaries. Before you ever set limits with someone else, you need to stop negotiating with your own discomfort. Stop explaining away behavior that hurts you. Stop convincing yourself that something is okay when your body is clearly telling you it's not. The next time something feels off, pause and ask yourself one simple question. If someone I love told me this happened to them, what would I say? Because chances are you'd tell them to walk away. And yet for yourself, you stay. That gap, that's where the work is. The second shift is learning to trust your signals. That quiet feeling in your chest, that hesitation you can't explain, that moment where something just doesn't sit right, that's not overthinking. That's awareness. You've just been trained to ignore it. So you override it with logic. You say, maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm reading into it. But here's the truth. Your intuition doesn't need a courtroom full of evidence. It just needs your attention. And one consistent red flag is enough. You don't need 10. You don't need things to get worse. You don't need closure. You just need to listen. The third shift is the hardest one. You have to heal the part of you that believes love must be earned. Because until that part changes, you will keep choosing people who make you work for it. Healing isn't quick. It's not clean. And sometimes it requires help outside of yourself. But it starts with asking better questions. What did I learn about love growing up? What did I believe I had to do to be valued? And are those beliefs still true? Or are they just old rules written by a younger version of me who didn't have a choice? Because you're not that version anymore. And here's something that might make you uncomfortable. Breaking this pattern means you might be alone for a while. Not because you're unworthy, but because you're no longer willing to settle for what's familiar. And that space, that silence, can feel terrifying if you're used to filling it with people. But it's also where everything changes. Because when you learn to be okay on your own, you stop choosing people out of fear. You start choosing them out of alignment. You stop asking, do they want me? And start asking, do they add to my life or just distract me from it? And that question will save you years. So let me leave you with something you need to hear clearly. You are not a magnet for toxic people. You were trained to tolerate them. And anything that was learned can be unlearned. Your brain will resist. It will try to convince you that this time is different, that you can help them, that maybe if you just try harder, love them better, be more patient. But the right person will never require you to shrink, to fix, or to prove your worth. They won't confuse you. They won't drain you. They won't make you question your reality. They will meet you in clarity, in respect, in consistency. And if that sounds boring to you, then you're not fully healed yet. Because peace is not boring. It's just unfamiliar. But once you experience it, truly experience it, it doesn't feel dull. It feels like breathing again. So here's what I want you to do next. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, think about your past relationships. Identify the patterns you ignored, the moments you explained away, the red flags you minimized. Write them down, not to judge yourself, but to educate yourself, because awareness is where the cycle breaks. And if something in this story felt a little too close to home, that's not an accident. That's recognition. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And more importantly, don't scroll away and forget it. Because the next time the pattern shows up, it won't look like a warning. It will look like a new beginning. And that's exactly why you have to be ready.